In this video, we will discuss how you can make the most of your internship. Two very common tasks that every law student gets when he or she interns in a law firm is either proofreading work or due diligence work. These two tasks can at first sight appear to be very boring. Imagine reading a 100-page document, which is an agreement you've never seen before. You can't make head or tail of it. Now imagine having to proofread it. Most people only focus on the grammar, and by the end of page 5 or page 10, they tend to sleep off. Another kind of work is due diligence work. Imagine having to go through 100 rent agreements and make a table explaining when each agreement was signed, whether each agreement is valid, and when it will expire. Imagine doing this mindlessly for various kinds of agreements, not just lease agreements. It could be distribution agreements, it could be marketing agreements, etc. This is really the standard work that most interns get. The problem here is that we tend to think that this is boring and this is of no consequence to our learning. I'm talking from the perspective of the law student. The standard expectation is that we will be taught how to do the work, that we will work on real life situations, and there will be a very high form of learning. And when law students see this, they are dismayed. Now I'm going to explain why this is some of the best work that you would do. You need to first look at the work a little differently. It's not about reading a 100-page document when you're doing a proofreading task. It gives you an opportunity to go through an entire agreement to understand what is really happening inside the commercial relationship that the parties are planning to enter into. Over time, if you keep doing this, you will be able to see various nuances of the same agreement. In fact, try reading the same agreement thrice and you will be able to notice something different about it than what you chanced upon in your earlier reading. So while the law firm only requires you to identify mistakes, inconsistencies, grammatical errors, etc., what you can do is try to understand how the relationship is really working, how the clauses are drafted, right? And try to go into the background of the transaction. In many cases, one agreement does not document the entire relationship between two parties who come together to do business. Usually this relationship is captured in a series of agreements entered into at different points of time. That's how a lot of complex business transactions work. Now what you can do is try to understand this big picture, this story. This story is not always revealed inside the agreement, so you might have to request your senior to take time off sometime and spend 5 or 10 minutes with you explaining what the entire story was. If you request your senior, he or she could probably share an old client memorandum or the client's email with you, which will really explain what the client was originally looking for. Now this is very important because when you are working as a transactional lawyer, your role in being able to see what the client wants is very crucial. You cannot just be relying on your knowledge of law or your knowledge of contracts. What you need to appreciate is the intent of the client. So when you see this client email and you see the bigger picture, the entire transaction materializing, and then you go through this one contract that you were asked to proofread, you will realize how the intention is materializing into real life legal document. And that's the learning that is really valuable for you. For this, you may have to ask questions at different points of time to your seniors. As long as you do not pester them every single time with a small question, I think it's a great idea, to compile all your requests from time to time and discuss in one shot. You request your senior to take time out and then get these clarified. What does this do? This ensures that you end up learning because you've got all your doubts clarified, you've understood the big picture. For the law firm, it ensures that their work gets done because you complete the proofreading task properly, probably in a better way than you could have done otherwise. And for the purpose of future interviews, this will also ensure that you can explain your work in a way that is impressive to a recruiter. for most people, describing what they did in their earlier internship is really difficult because they are only able to say that they were making a list of tables, they were mapping 10 agreements together without knowing why they were really doing this. And this makes their experience no different from that of anybody else. It's a run of the mill experience. But when a recruiter is able to see that you are able to see the big picture and explain it to him or her, then the impression you convey is very different.